Good afternoon. Good afternoon again. I restarted my webcast. I am so happy to be here. It is such a blessing. I am so thankful, thankful, thankful. And I'm going to do my prayer again. Dear God, as I sit before you to speak, I pray to you that my soul you will keep. And if I should die before I finish, I pray to you, dear God, in the name of Jesus, that any outstanding sins will be forgiven. Amen. Now we're going to go on with our subject here. Our topic is, let me get to it. When telling someone to forgive, forget, move on, from whose perspective is it really? From whose perspective is it really? So let's get on to that. We have some great information here. From whose perspective is it really? So let me close some stuff out here. From whose perspective is it really? So let me go right there to it because I want to make sure everything is coming out really, really, really good. So now, from whose perspective? So, do we ever think, I haven't, but I'm not one to just blatantly tell someone, you need to forget it. You need to move on. You need to forgive. You need to forget it and you need to move on. I'm not quick to tell people that. I'll help in any way I can and in the way that I should at the time that it comes if I'm directed by the Spirit of God to help someone and tell someone if I can't say or I don't say uh, if nothing comes to me that I should say about the situation, then I will be there for support. Okay, that's me. That's the way I am. But so many people are so quick to tell people, honey, you just need to uh, just forgive and forget and just move on. Move on to something else. But it's not that easy. It is not that easy. So we're going to talk about that. For some people, it's easy for them to tell somebody, yo, you need to move on. You need to move on. You need to forget about that. You need to go on and do this and do that and the other. But it is not that easy for people. It's not that easy for people to forgive, forget, and move on. Not for everybody. It's not that easy for everybody. So I just want to come today and talk about that, give some information about it. I'm just making sure I check everything, make sure everything is going well here. Okay, so we'll get right into it. Right into it now we will. And I have some good articles here. Some good articles here. Okay. Let me find the one that I had up for the first one. We're saying forgive, forget, and move on. So let me find it because I want everything to be in order. Because I have one here. Why forgive and forget is actually really bad. That's an interesting one. And how to let go and why it's so important for well-being. Sounds good. Sounds good. So let me get in here because I did pull that up. Go to my history. his story. We have her story, our story. Oh, yes, there are so many stories to be told. Not just his, but ours. Our story, her story, their story. So much to be told. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and go because I did have all of my work pulled up. Who is it for? That was a question I have, and I can't let that go. So, when we tell someone to let go, who is it for? Who is it really, really for? Something I need to close out. There's so much going on in this world. We need to make sure that every time we open our mouths to speak with someone or to share with someone, that our words are seasoned with grace so that we can help someone, help make it better and not worse. To help make it better and not worse. So, I'm going to go right here. When we tell someone to move on, is it for us or is it for them? And let's see if I can get something to come up here so I can get back to that, because it bothers me when I lose something like that, when I've already pulled it up, I've already scanned it and ready for it to be used, and then it disappears. It disappears. But hey, that's technology. We have to be ready for anything, don't we? Oh, yes. Okay, here we go. All right, let me get it. Now, I'm in the Copilot. I'm in Microsoft Bing. And when we tell someone to move on, it's usually for them. It's usually for them. But let's go on into this. I want to, because there was some in here that I really wanted to share with you. And thank you for your patience. You know how I am, your family to me on my site, and I enjoy sharing. So I want to pull this up and make sure that I get what I want relayed. That's not the one I wanted though. Let me go back. Okay. Things that are coming up now are not what I wanted. So I'm going to go ahead and go with what I have here. Why forgive and forget is actually really bad advice. And remember, I did a piece already, a show already on whether when we forgive, should we forget? And I came to the conclusion that it's not good to forget. We can forgive, But many times, of course, when something happens, it triggers us. So we need to realize that, hey, it's not good to forget everything. It's not good to forget everything, but we can forget and we can move on with our lives. But then when we need to remember some things also. So I'm going to go to psychology today. That's positive psychology, excuse me, and how to let go and why it's important for your well-being. How to let go and why it's important for well-being. Uh, this is the 24th, no, 2024, March the 13th. And while we're going, the key insights here, letting go involves accepting change and releasing burdens that hinder people's personal growth and well-being. Mindfulness techniques and self-compassion can and uh, aid in relinquishing negative emotions. Embracing forgiveness and focusing on the present supports emotional healing and future happiness. The art of letting go has ancient Asian roots, particularly prominent in Taoism and Buddhism. Letting go entails non attachment, that is, freeing ourselves from our desires and accepting whatever fate serves us with equanimity. Oh, yes, with equanimity. All right, with equanimity. Okay, here we go. I want to get this. I have it on my phone. If you tell somebody something, uh, okay, when people say to let it go, what do they mean? It's telling someone to let it go, always rude. Okay, 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 let's just continue on with this. In psychological terms, letting go is related to concepts such as acceptance, forgiveness, self-compassion, psychological flexibility, and gratitude. We talk about self-compassion, we talk about forgiveness, we talk about all of these, don't we? Recent research has shown a significant correlation between our capacity to loosen our fixations and our general psychological well-being, especially when we tend to hold on to resentment and when we're unable to move on from the past or a former partner. We can benefit significantly from learning how to let go. From learning how to let go. So, oh yes, when telling someone to let go. Thank the Lord for giving us this information. So, recent research has shown a significant correlation between our capacity to loosen our fixations and our general psychological well-being. I'm repeating this, especially when we tend to hold on to resentment or when we are unable to move on from the past or a former partner. we can benefit significantly from learning how to let go. And so we know if any of out here, we've been so hurt sometimes, till we just don't know what to do, when, where, how. We just don't know what to do because it hurts. Like that man on that commercial said, it hurts so bad. Okay, before you can, so this article contains what is letting go, why is it so hard to let go, 7 benefits of letting go, how to let go of. Okay, so that's some of them. So what is letting go? Letting go is a spiritual and or psychological process that requires relinquishing or lessening our attachment to outcomes, to desires and expectations, and accepting what is. And its core lies the concept, at its core lies the concept of non-attachment, a principle that is central to Taoist and Buddhist philosophy. Uh, Non-attachment entails freeing ourselves from clinging to both positive and negative experiences, allowing for greater emotional flexibility and enhanced resilience. And so I'm going to go back to the question, when you tell someone to move on and to forget it, is usually intended for their benefit, but it can also reflect your own feelings and needs. The phrase is a way of expressing that a particular relationship or situation is over, and you're encouraging the other person to let go of their attachment or focus on something else. So we're going to break it down here, and this is AI, okay, overview on my phone, an AR overview. Here's the breakdown for the other person. You're essentially telling them to stop dwelling on the past, end their focus on the person or a situation, and move on to new opportunities or relationships. And then for you, potentially, by saying it, you might also be trying to put an end to your own lingering feelings or the situation's impact on you. It can be a way of distancing yourself or trying to move on from the experience. So in the context of breakups, if you're willing and if you're telling your ex-partner to move on, it might mean that you're trying to communicate that the relationship is over and that you're not interested in getting back together. And in the context of friendships, it could mean that you're no longer comfortable with the friendship dynamic and need to move on. Okay? You're not comfortable with the friendship dynamic and need to move on. And in the context of grief, while not the most compassionate way to address grief, it can sometimes be a way of trying to express that it's time to move forward, even though the pain is still real. So ultimately, the phrase move on is about ending an attachment or focus and beginning something new. So, is it for us or for them? And most of the time, it's like they said, it could be for us, so we could stop feeling the brunt of the situation, because someone that we care about, we're concerned about, is going through. And when they go through, we go through too. when we go through, they go through too. So it's a way of helping each other out if it is appropriate, if it is the appropriate time, okay? If it is the appropriate time. Now, getting back to positive psychology, non attachment features centrally in the Tao Te Ching. In this text, the philosopher Lao Tzu, 2017, 400 BCE, advocates a mindset based on acceptance and yielding and on an absence of striving and conscious effort. In Taoism, letting go centers on the idea of offering no resistance to the natural order of things. And this is by Schaeffner in 2021, this research. It promotes a sophisticated form of submitting our will to cosmic forces by accepting what is and loosening our attachments to specific outcomes. So if we free ourselves from as many of our desires, our assumptions, and attachments to specific outcomes as possible, we gain equanimity and inner peace, which allow us to accept more calmly whatever happens in the here and now. And this came from the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. So a key Daoist, I went over that word, it's Daoist. 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 Okay. A key Daoist concept is non-action. It has also been translated as non-purposive action, non-assertive action, and effortless action. So perhaps it's best understood as a state of freedom from the dictates of desire. It can be described as a spiritual state that is marked by simplicity, quietude, and the absence of self-serving desire. The injunction to let go of our desires is even more important in Buddhist thought, where it takes center stage. In Buddhist frameworks, letting go necessitates above all the quenching of the flames of our cravings. If we learn how to let go of our sensual and worldly wants, we will also learn how to let go of our attachment to our egos, the root cause of all our suffering. And that's from Keon, a study in 2013. In 2013. So as we go on with this information, I'm just glad that I'm able to share this with you. Thank you so much for being here with me. I really appreciate it. You are wonderful. You are special, and I thank you for being here. Gradually, we will be able to see ourselves as part of a larger whole, WHOLE, rather than as a distinct and separate entity. And the word, I like to know how to pronounce these words. I hope you can hear it. Tao, Taoism. That's how you pronounce it, Taoism. So let me go back to it. Taoism. The ultimate goal of Buddhism is to bring a halt to the cycle of suffering and rebirth, which is fueled by our cravings, according to this 2013 study. Our suffering can be ended by practicing non attachment and understanding the impermanent nature of a phenomena. Letting go of our desires and attachments, which include attachments to our very sense of self, is therefore the most central imperative in Buddhist thought. Research in psychology has explored the benefits of non attachment and acceptance for mental well being. Sadra, for example, in 2010, have developed a non attachment scale. They understand non attachment has a release from mental fixations and have also shown that it is psychologically and socially adaptive. So now they have a scale and which has been around for a while to help you measure your releases. So, getting on down, acceptance and letting go at the heart of this new therapeutic school, unlike CBT and ACT, does not encourage us to rationally challenge our negative thoughts and feelings. Instead, it asks us simply to recognize, accept, and then let them go. And that's a 2019 study by Hayes. So, and then it's talked about Buddhism and Taoism. So I'm going to go now. You can go there, positive psychology. And it's talking about the unhelpful attachments can be a form of psychological inflexibility or even an obsession or fixations, or they can just signal that we may find it extremely difficult to move on from something, be that a person or an act of injustice in our past. And then what's more, sometimes we get stuck and remain attached to outcomes, to people, to our past, even when the attachments no longer serve us. So in some cases, our attachments can even become counterproductive of our maladaptive. Okay? That is good information. So, talking about attachments. So I'm going to go back up here and talk about this Buddhist attachment. Buddhists would argue that our cravings and attachments are not just completely normal and indeed a significant part of what makes us human, but also the root causes of all our sufferings. So that's what Buddhists, that belief thinks. So we can also say that attachment is the flip side of care. When we truly care about something or someone or about a specific outcome or goal, we quite naturally become attached to it. We care about our deeper values and anything that is related to these values. Violations of values are often particularly hard to let go of, and that is so true. So what is more, sometimes we can get stuck and remain attached to outcomes. I'm repeating this, okay? To people or our pasts when these attachments no longer serve us. So in some cases, our attachments can even become counterproductive or maladaptive. Unhelpful attachments can be a form of psychological inflexibility or even of obsessions or fixations. Or they can just signal that we may find it extremely difficult to move on from something, be that a person or an act of injustice in our past. We may also have to learn how to let go of certain social expectations or cultural narratives that do not serve us. And so I think that's where many of us get stuck, right here on the cultural narratives, the social expectations that don't serve us. People pleasing. If I don't do this, what will they think? If I do this, what will they think? So do you remember Elsa from Disney's animated film Frozen? Elsa discovers the full extent of her powers only when she lets go of her attempts to fit in and to be a good girl who conceals and never feels. Feels. Her memorable scene of self acceptance and subsequent transformation into a powerful queen with special protective gifts is all about Let It Go. And that song, I remember Alyssa used to sing that song, Let It Go, which is also the title of the most iconic song from this film. You may enjoy the following video, which is coming up, and this site is positivepsychology.com. They have information, they have a video for you, the power of letting go. And there's 7 benefits of letting go. 7 benefits of letting go. So now we'll go to our next section here. Why forgive and forget is actually really bad advice. And this is by Mary Rose Samariba. 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 And she did this in 2016, July the 25th. These are really, really great. And I appreciate them. I really do. Hello, baby sister, Maritha. I'm glad you're here with me. So we've all suffered in life, but she said, I like to forgive and forget. A friend recently said, probably expecting me to nod in agreement, instead visibly grimaced. I call, and she said, BS. To me, the alliterative phrase, forgive and forget, represents a romanticized sentiment more than actual helpful life advice. She said, I believe it serves to smooth things over more so than it deals and with healing or amending wrongdoing. And you know, when I saw that, I said, that makes sense. It really does make sense. Because when some people want you to hurry through it. Child, you need to forgive. You just need to forgive. You need to forget. You need to just move on from that. You just need to move on from that. It's not that easy and it's not that simple. We've all suffered in life. And we all like to forgive. We all like to forget. But it's not that easy. And we have to realize that. And I know by the grace of God, we can move on and we can function and have a very happy life. But even God warns us and makes us aware of this dangers and things, and lets us remember where we're in a situation that's similar to what we've been blessed to come out of. He makes us aware of these things. And so she said that phrase to her, forgive and forget, represents romanticized sentiment more than actual helpful life advice. And she said she believes it serves to smooth things over more than to heal and amend the wrongdoing. And that's why the question came to me. When someone tells you to forgive, forget, and move on, is it for them or is it for you? It could be a little bit of both, okay? So we've all suffered in this life, but the thought of forgetting about wrongs, she said, I faced, seems offensive to me. How could forgetting help? And how is it even impossible, she asks. We don't live in the film Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind, wherein it's possible for people to surgically remove past wounds from their memory. Plus, if we forget about past wounds, how are we to avoid the same situations again? Exactly what I'm talking about. Another common phrase, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, comes to her mind. Oh, yes. So, of course, for most of us, we don't forget. And that's so true. And anybody that says, we can say, oh, I forgot. We can say, I forgot about that when somebody brings it to mind sometimes, something that was buried back in our memory, way back there in our subconscious. And we can say, oh, I forgot about that. But then when it comes up again, you start remembering the facts about it, whether good or bad. So she's just making a point here. Of course, for most of us, we don't forget. We remember the hurts we've experienced and we revise our behavior to avoid them. Oh, yes. Even if we don't consciously pay attention to the wounds and wrongdoings in our lives or the wounds and the wrongdoers in our lives, often our body remembers them. And whether we're conscious of them or not, they affect how we live our lives. So rather than banish our issues, let's rethink how we move on. That makes so much sense, doesn't it? Let's rethink how we move on, because when certain things happen in our lives, it triggers things. It could trigger something good, it could trigger something bad, okay? But it brings it back to our minds, okay? Number one, forgetting is not possible, period, according to the author here. So, as Julia Hogan, LPC, told me, it's impossible to truly forget wrong that has been committed against you. It happened. It happened to you, and you experienced how hurtful it was. That is something that is impossible to erase from your memory. Nor would it be fair to you to ask you to forget that the wrong happened despite the harm that you've suffered. So true. Doesn't this make sense? You are allowed to acknowledge the hurt that you've suffered, and it is often beneficial for someone to say, yes, I've been wronged by someone. The thing is, if someone tries to forgive and forget, it's possible they haven't really forgiven, because by the quick act of forgetting, they haven't fully processed the wrong they've been done. And acknowledge the wrong is essential to real forgiveness. Acknowledging the wrong is essential to real forgiveness. The leading researchers on forgiveness, that's Doctors Robert Enright and Richard Fitzgibbons, describe forgiveness as people, upon rationally determining that they have been unfairly treated, forgive when they willfully abandon resentment and related responses to which they have a right, and endeavor to respond to the wrongdoer based on the moral principle of benefits, beneficence, which may include compassion, unconditional worth, generosity, and moral love, to which the wrongdoer, by nature of the hurtful act or acts, has no right. Oh my goodness. Enright and Fitzgibbons describe the process of forgiveness as a four-stage process of uncovering the hurt, understanding what forgiveness is and isn't, and deciding to forgive, working to change the way they view the offender, themselves, and their relationship with the offender, and finally finding meaning in suffering, connecting with others, and feeling a renewed purpose in life. This is awesome, and it is very, very, and I am almost through. I think I spent most of my time trying to find my material. Number two, moving on takes time. When it comes to grave hurts, to grow in true personal healing and truly forgive is incredibly difficult and has no timeline, Hogan told us. It can be very difficult and emotional process. And so a therapist can be a great resource to help you with this. Despite the difficult process, though, seeking true forgiveness can be a much more freeing experience than forgetting. True forgiveness doesn't erase the wrongdoing, but rather frees the person who was hurt. You hear that? True forgiveness doesn't erase the wrongdoing, but rather frees the person who was hurt. So forgetting has nothing to do with real forgiveness. Forgetting actually impedes it, okay? Pretending the wrongdoing never happened doesn't make the effects of it go away, Hogan continued. So while it might be easier in the moment to ignore the wrongdoing and act as if nothing has happened, the emotional effects of the wrongdoing are still there. Once the person who was wronged is ready to acknowledge the hurt, the healing process of forgiveness can begin. Pretending it didn't happen is not going to help, and it will come out somehow. Hogan has seen this to be true in counseling her patients. If I were to tell my patients who were abused as children to forgive and forget what happened to them, I would be saying to them that the ways their lives have been negatively impacted by that abuse doesn't matter. And nothing could be further from the truth. Their lives have been incredibly impacted by what they experienced as children. Number three, forgetting can be useful but costly. Dr. Jennifer J. Fred, psychologist, professor at the University of Oregon, and editor of the Journal of Trauma and Dissociation, notes that there are situations where forgetting can be a helpful coping mechanism, but it comes with a price. Also, author of the book Blind to Betrayal, Fred told me the basic idea in betrayal trauma theory is forgetting can serve a function of someone who's really stuck in a bad situation. It's not uncommon for someone to forget a painful experience in order to stay attached to a person who keeps you alive, for instance. A child needs a parent to stay alive, so in case of abuse for children, forgetting harms them, forgetting harms done to them serves a function, but it comes at a great cost. For those facing betrayal trauma, the notion of forgetting often comes in the form of dissociating. I keep wanting to put an A there, but it's not. Dissociating. We have many kinds of memories, Freud explains. I can remember facts. I can remember how to do things, like now to ride a bicycle. Some memories I can talk about, they're very consciously accessible. Others, not so much. People who are betrayed traumatically in childhood are much more likely to have dissociative tendencies in life and difficulties having intimate relationships later in life. These are things people can heal from, but it takes effort, relationships, and admitting the truth to oneself. But can we handle the truth? We can't handle without it actually. Okay? We can't handle without it actually. Number 4, forgiveness is possible. Freud stresses that forgiveness can be incredibly beneficial under the right circumstances, but truth is a necessary precondition to reconciliation. Even when one has been harmed by a person who is unable to admit the truth, that person can still admit the truth to themselves about the wrong they've been dealt, a necessary step to move forward. So if the other person doesn't own up to it, the person that's been harmed can't own up to it and move forward. Forgiveness is beneficial only after there has been some kind of accountability and truthfulness. The problem is without accountability, there are conditions for bad things to happen again. Instead of leading to healing, it leaves the person with all the cost of being harmed and could let the perpetrator harm again. Without the ability to see the reality and take protective action, the person risks being victimized in the same way again. All this said, however, Freud impressed on me, the author saying, there is yet some good news. A sincere apology is extremely healing. In our society, people are afraid to apologize, even if they want to, because they think it could somehow be used against them legally or socially. But what I have observed is sincere apologies are extremely healing to both the person who apologizes and the person apologized to. So while we can't rush the healing process of forgiveness for ourselves or others, we can help others by not encouraging them to brush our foibles under the rug, but instead offering sincere apologies. We also can benefit from forgiving ourselves if we've unfairly blamed ourselves for being wronged by others. But most of all, don't aspire to forgive and forget, because, as it turns out, forgetting how one's been betrayed not only doesn't lead to true forgiveness, but it also risks betraying oneself. This is by Mary Rose Samariba. And this is verlymag.com. VERILY.com. Thank you so much for being with me. And I know it took me a while to get this out because I was looking for what I really wanted to bring out, and I did find a one version of it. But thank you so much for being here with me. I love you. I appreciate you. And please let me know that you are here with me. And I pray and trust that the Lord will continue to bless and keep you, and that you will be willing to be kept. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here.